Good morning, everyone. I'm Father Dwayne. Perhaps you don't recognize me, but Father Alan and Father Michael finally let me say Mass, so now here I am also offering a reflection on the readings for today. In our first reading, we hear from Philippians, where Paul is writing to a community that he loves deeply, and he is working very hard to encourage this Christian community to remain faithful to their discipleship of Jesus. And in the Gospel, Jesus tells a parable about a dishonest steward who's about to be fired for his dishonesty. But in the end, his boss praises him for what he does. For several years, I took students on service trips to the southern part of Ohio, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And the Catholic community in that area is about 2% of the population. Those Catholics know who they are, and I would often look at the teenagers within that small Christian community, and they likewise knew who they were as Catholic teens living in this much larger community which was not Catholic. I think that gives us some sense of the world in which the Philippians were living. St. Paul was writing to this tiny Christian community within this much larger Roman world. And of course, the Romans weren't all that friendly towards Christians. They persecuted Christians, in fact, for well over 200 years. And so Paul is writing to this Christian community, a community, as I said, that he deeply loved, and he's encouraging them to be faithful as a disciple of Jesus. He had to work very hard to do that, but he was very concerned for them. We do not live in tiny communities like the Philippians did, or like some Christians today in southern Ohio live. We live in a larger community. We're blessed to have a parish. We have hundreds of people around us who are also disciples of Jesus. But we are still living in a world which is not particularly friendly to Christianity or faith-filled people. Given that context in which we live, plus living within a pandemic, challenges us, I think, also to be faithful as disciples of Jesus. The dishonest steward in the Gospel is praised, not because he is dishonest, but because he is resourceful. He's just about ready to be fired from his work. With his back up against the wall, he has to figure out something to do in order to survive. And so he does become resourceful and tries to ingratiate himself to his master's debtors. And so his boss praises him for being so clever. When it comes to us living in such an unsupportive environment, I think we too are challenged to be more resourceful in living as a disciple of Jesus. So I think, for example, how can we be more resourceful in prayer? Well, in the parish we are now offering Eucharistic adoration, which just started with the pandemic. That is an opportunity for us, I think, to branch out and participate in another form of prayer if we have not done that in our past. This would be a way for us to learn to pray differently within a different context. This is also an opportunity, living rather restricted lives as we must nowadays with this pandemic, that we may find ourselves with more time in which to read or reflect more deeply upon our faith. I often think that we as Catholics are blessed to have so many resources almost at our fingertips in terms of our faith. We have centuries of spiritual writers and spiritual writings that we could latch onto and read and reflect upon. And today with the internet, we can easily go on the internet and find many Catholic resources, many prayer resources, many spiritual resources, perhaps even groups with which we could join to enter into prayer or reflection on faith issues. So that is a resource available to us. Again, restricted as we are, maybe we are challenged to find new ways to connect with people whom we care about. We can't just jump in our car and go somewhere. So maybe we can learn to reach out to them by phone, by mail, maybe by sending them or providing them some small gift. This is an opportunity for us to be more generous with our resources for those who are in need. And it's always an opportunity for us, I think, to grow in virtue. So we could select one particular virtue that we want to grow in and practice that virtue every day and find ourselves growing in that virtuous life. By doing these kinds of things, we are doing as St. Paul counseled the Philippians, and that is to stand firm in our faith. And we are remembering, of course, that our ultimate discipleship is found in our faithful citizenship in heaven.